Hello, I'm Phil Goodlad and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. It's the news, the views, the analysis you all need from our beautiful game on Friday the 12th of September. And what a weekend we've got to look forward to.
I'm really proud of the players' level of fight, aggression, desire, all stuff that we were questioning on outside and inside the building. We questioned each other on in midweek.
10 points, 12 is good shooting. If you can replicate that, then you're doing all right.
Struggling Rangers host second-placed Hearts. Meanwhile, at Easter Road, third take on fourth.
Headed away, but it's driven into the net by Ivan Dolček.
There has been another goal at Den Park, and it's another goal for Hibernian and another goal for Kieran Bowie.
Who will come out on top? And then there's a cracker to come in the Championship.
Oh, what a goal! What a goal! St Johnstone are 2-1 ahead.
Oh, what a goal that is for Raith Rovers! An incredible strike.
First against second as St Johnstone travel to Raith Rovers.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Great to have you along this morning. I'm delighted to say that we're joined by a couple of wise old sages that can guide us through what we can expect over the next few days in Scottish football. Moira Gordon, the football writer. She's seen it all. She's written about it all. Moira, good morning to you.
Good morning, Phil.
And Ryan McGowan, Livingston defender, a man who knows what it takes to get the job done, which means that the next 20 minutes or so could be very interesting indeed. Ryan, morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm going to start off by the use of the word struggling when I was introducing there what we have with Rangers against Hearts, because one club's struggles is another club's good start to the season. We're calling it struggling Rangers. Many Rangers fans might start screaming saying, hold on a minute, Phil. We're unbeaten Rangers in the league this season. Moira, I guess it depends what camp you're in when you describe the Ibrox team.
To be fair, I'm not actually sure there's that many Rangers fans that'll be taking this start to the season as any kind of positive. I don't think unbeaten is what they're looking for. I think they are disappointed. I think they're frustrated and they're definitely demanding more. So it's not a case of being unbeaten. It's actually being up there chasing or competing with Celtic, and already there's a divide there. So they won't want that to go on any longer. They need their first league win. They don't want to be giving teams like Hearts or Hibs, whoever else is ones chasing, any kind of hope. So this is the point where they really need to start putting down a marker, and Russell Martin needs to start convincing people he's the man for the job.
I wonder, Ryan, if hope, as Moira says there, for Rangers fans comes in the form of their transfer window dealings, because in Bojan Majowski, they now have the number 9 that they were hoping for throughout the transfer window. And I wonder from a playing point of view, just how big a lift is it in a dressing room to have a couple of new players come in the door that can fit straight into the starting team?
I think it's a huge boost for the squad. If you can see players coming in that instantly are going to help your starting 11 or make your team better, add that in or marry that in with Majowski, who's scored goals in this league, has performed well in this league before. So straight away, you know that you don't have to not help him too much, but he already knows that Hearts, for example, for the weekend is going to be a difficult game when you go away to certain grounds, what's to be expected, and you also understand the pressure of playing for Rangers and a club that size. So I think that's a really good bit of business that they've made, but I also feel that like what Moira said, I think Rangers fans are just desperate to cling on to something that they can follow or something that they can hold on to for this rest of the season. I think so far they've just been sort of punched and defeated at every game that they went to in terms of the performance or lack of performance. So I think if you're a Rangers fan going at the weekend, you'd obviously want to see them win, but I think they just want something to be able to say, well, I can get behind that. I can see roughly what direction they're going in and follow their team like they usually do.
Moira, just a word on actual Russell Martin himself. Got the draw in the Old Firm game before the international break. We've had the international break, which many people said was a great time for Rangers to just sort of sit back, take stock and then work with the players. But on the opposite side of that, if Rangers fans in the opening 20 minutes at the weekend don't see an improvement after that international break, it will almost be that the knives will be even sharper for Russell Martin.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure they can get much sharper at the moment. I think fans are already, they've been livid about the way that some of the performances, it's not even just the results, it's performances. So they don't feel that Russell Martin is their man. I mean, it's very rarely you see a manager this early in their tenure already lose so many fans. Now, fans are fickle, so if he can turn results around, they'll get back on board to a certain degree. But I do think this game is actually really quite an interesting one because, again, Hearts haven't always gone to Ibrox and started well. And for all that they're sitting top of the table or joint top of the table at the moment, the last couple of games, they haven't done particularly well in their first half performances either, or they've been, matched well by the teams they're playing in that first half. So they've had later performances to go on and get the results. So they don't want to be starting like that and giving Rangers hope. But if they can start well, then they're going to have the Rangers fans on top of them as well. So I think that first sort of 20 minutes is going to be actually quite interesting at Ibrox this weekend.
Well, let's speak about Hearts because I can hear people up and down the line shouting the usual abuse. Oh, typical BBC Scotland, typical Phil, you're focusing on Rangers. There are two teams at Ibrox this weekend. I mean, this is a big moment, Ryan, not just for Hearts and their early season promise, but for Derek McInnes to really lay down a marker in a big game.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, that they have got off to a good start to the season. They're top of the league. They should be going into this game fully confident and almost smelling blood a little bit in terms of, like what you said, if they go there and win, one hand, obviously, a lot of Hearts fans and Hearts as a club will be obviously delighted, and that puts a real, marker down in terms of we're trying to get second or we're trying to push, sort of big two as much as we can. But on the other hand, it puts huge amounts of pressure on Rangers, who are probably, between them and Hibs, I'm guessing, are going to be the biggest challenges to finish second. So not only would it enhance Hearts' chances of doing it, it'll put a massive nail and a massive sort of shockwave through Ibrox if they can go there and win. I'm not too sure that Russell Martin would survive it, but if he does, then it means that it would be a lot of pressure on the sort of Rangers hierarchy to make a decision if Hearts go there at the weekend and win.
Yeah, it's the big game across Scottish football this weekend at Ibrox. Rangers against Hearts, 3:00 on Saturday. Sportsound will have it covered live for you along with all the other games. And one of those big other games is Dundee United, travelling to Easter Road to take on Hibs. Moira, a battle of the European two this term. I wonder how much, I was going to say pressure is off, but that's probably the wrong way to put it. But how much these teams can now focus on the domestic grind now that they're not involved in European campaigns, because actually in their qualifying bid for Europe, both earned a lot of plaudits.
The thing is, they both performed well in Europe, and we've seen over the years just how difficult it is for teams to combine, especially the teams out with Celtic and Rangers, to combine going and playing European ties, especially away ones. Then you're coming back a few days later and having to deliver again in the domestic football. So it definitely will make life easier for them. And I think it's going to be intriguing now that they aren't in Europe. That's both teams have started well, but they've had those difficulties of trying to combine European and Scottish Premiership football. So the fact that they're now, those shackles are off almost and they can just focus on the one thing will make it quite I think it'll free them up, and I think they could start. They've been a good start to the season, but I think they could actually, start improving even more. And we've seen that even with Hibs. They haven't won at home in their two games, but both of the draws that they had came after away European nights. So that obviously, or you'd say it possibly had an impact on them.
Ryan, a word on Jim Goodwin signing that new deal at Tannadice this week. When the announcement was made that Jim Goodwin signed this new 12-month rolling contract, I was like, why at this time of the year? I wasn't aware that there was any animosity towards the length of deal or that. But I guess it's good business from the club because they've put out a signal to say, look, we are really happy, Jim, with what you've done so far at Tannadice and we'd like you to continue, and here's a platform to go and do it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it also shows the players, the players that he's brought in, that everybody's on the same page. We were talking about Rangers before, and you probably have players sitting in there that are unsure whether the manager is going to be there next Monday or next month. So to have a bit of stability at the club, have the manager who's done well, obviously got the fans behind him, and is on a good trajectory in terms of when he's arrived to where they are now, and what they want to do moving forward. So I think it's a bit of smart business from Dundee United. I think it obviously is a reward for Jim Goodwin and what he's done since arriving at the club, and I think it just almost steadies the ship a little bit, and it allows them and gives them the platform to, like you guys said, to go on and start putting a run together and try and get into those European places for next season.
Not often we praise the scheduling of football matches over the weekend. So let me be the first to do that. I think it's great that actually this one is at 5:45, which means that we can get Rangers Hearts done from 3 o'clock, and then we can focus at 5:45 on third against fourth Dundee United taking on Hibs. Ryan, you're heading up to Pataudry for Aberdeen against Livingston. What can Livingston achieve tomorrow at when we're speaking about struggling? That is the word that you can use with Aberdeen right now. Not scored a goal, not won a game domestically so far this season in the league. Will Livingston be going up there almost as favourites?
I'm not sure. I think
you are sure. Come on, give it to us.
In our four walls, we believe that we can go up there and win, but we think that.
Do you expect to win
every game? I expect us to win. Yeah, but I expect us to win every game. Or go in with that mindset at least. Mm-hmm. Over the years, I've been proven that's not true on more occasions. But yeah, I think as a group, you go into every game thinking that you're going to win. I think there's stranger results in world football than us going up to Aberdeen and winning at the weekend. So, we're fully aware that if we are a good team, when we play the way that we want to play. Albeit Aberdeen have made some great signings over the last couple of weeks, and like we were saying about Hibs and Dundee United, now have had an international window where they can maybe sort of recharge and reset and get ready for the sort of next block of games. So I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think if anyone in the league is in a false position, I think it is probably Aberdeen. With the money they've spent, the players they've signed, the quality that they have. I do think they are in a bit of a false position in terms of where they find themselves in the league, but we also need to take full advantage of that. I understand it's a difficult league, so we need to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah, sorry, and I'm speaking over the top of you, which I shouldn't do, and I apologise. I just wondered, there was a phrase mentioned earlier when we were speaking about Hearts going to Ibrox, which was that the players may smell blood. Do you, as a team, go up to Pataudry this weekend smelling that Aberdeen are there for the taking?
Yeah, I think as an opposing player, that's one of the things you try and do as quickly as you can in an away game, is to try and get the home fans frustrated, annoyed at their own players, and put the pressure on the home players. And that's sometimes why the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of games are so frantic, because both teams are trying to do that. The home players are trying to get the fans on top and get a good start, and the away players are trying to do the exact same. And it's almost after that 15, 20 minutes, once the game settles down, you kind of see where you're at. So yeah, we know that a fast start tomorrow and an early goal can make a huge difference in terms of how the Aberdeen fans react, how the players react. Adds that extra pressure onto those Aberdeen players that are playing. So yeah, we need to make it as difficult as possible, but we also understand that on our day when we are a pretty good team and we do play good football, so we're going to try and implement that and hopefully come down the road with 3 points.
Really good piece up at the website this week from my colleague Thomas Duncan, looking at Aberdeen's season so far, and actually the calendar year. It's only been 5 victories since November last year. But looking at the next 5 games, he calls them must-win for the Pittodrie club. Livingston this weekend, Motherwell in the League Cup, Dundee United, Motherwell again in the league, and Dundee. Aberdeen's next 5 domestic fixtures already feel like must-win games for Jimmy Tillene, writes Thomas Duncan. You can see that piece at the website. Moira, Falkirk at home to St Mirren. I'm looking forward to this one. I've said many times before, I'm a big fan of St Mirren's. I'm a big fan of Stephen Robinson's. I'm also a big fan of just the breath of fresh air that Falkirk have brought to the Premiership. And I know sometimes they can be criticised for being too open, but the last time they were in action, they went up to Pittodrie and did what Livingston are hoping to do this weekend. They rattled Aberdeen and came away with a 1-0 win. I'm looking forward to this one.
I think it's very different teams in the way they approach it. I mean, Stephen Robinson's teams are always very well organised. They're always hard to break down. You've seen some of the top teams in the league struggle to come away with wins against them. So it'll be interesting to see how Falkirk do it. So Falkirk, sometimes it's a high percentage game sometimes. The way they play means that they can come away with results sometimes, but you've got to find that chink in the armour before the opposition team manage to hit you on the counter or manage to get in behind you. So it's about trying to balance that out. They are a good team, but as I say, St Mirren have started the season well. Stephen Robinson does get his teams very well organised. They have a lot of belief. They're playing with a lot of belief just now when you see them against better teams than Falkirk. So I don't think that's an easy one for Falkirk tomorrow.
Dundee at home to Motherwell. Motherwell, well, both teams looking for a first win of the season. Although, again, has to be said, Motherwell unbeaten in the league this season. It's almost so early, Ryan, in the league campaign that we throw around words like this team is struggling or this team is failing to win. But actually, Motherwell, a bit like Rangers, they failed to lose so far. Dundee, Motherwell, what do you think will happen there?
I'd love for both of them to lose.
that can't happen this weekend.
No, I think it just shows you how tight or how close the league is this season. Obviously, as the season progresses, the gaps will kind of appear between all of the clubs. But I think just now, that there isn't too much between. It's probably 70% of the league. If you look at sort of Livingston, Falkirk, Dundee, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, they kind of have started a bit better, but I think the teams I've just mentioned, they are all kind of not feeling each other out, but they're unsure of where they're going to land in the sort of pyramid of this season. So I think there's a few markers to be laid down in the next couple of weeks, or after the sort of first round of fixtures have been complete and everyone can see where they are. But I think for those two, Dundee will be trying to get that first win, and I think if you're a Motherwell fan or player, if you can come away from Dens with a point or 3, they'll be pretty happy. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a draw, but I will be keeping a bit of a close eye on that because we play Dundee the following week. So it'll be one that we'll be keeping a keen eye on, that's for sure.
You'll be running up the Pittodrie tunnel at 5 to 5 on Saturday afternoon.
Celebrating.
Celebrating, and the first thing you'll do is, what's the Dundee score? That's what you'll be shouting across the dressing room. So we have Aberdeen, Livingston, Dundee, Motherwell, Falkirk, St Mirren, Rangers, Hearts, all 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. 5:45 Hibs, Dundee United, which leaves on Sunday the game, Moira, that's across all the back pages this morning, but for reasons that has nothing to do with what happens on the park. Kilmarnock Celtic, and the fact that the Celtic fans, a number of them, say they are going to hold a protest at Rugby Park in the way that their club is being run. And the protest is that they will buy their ticket, but they won't they won't take their seats until 10 minutes into the game. What sort of an impact, if any, could this have?
To be honest with you, I don't see it having much of an impact, not for what they want to achieve anyway. I mean, as soon as, you say, we'll buy our ticket, but we won't turn up, the board really don't care whether you turn up. They want the money part of it, so you've given them the bit that they want, and they don't care too much whether you're in the ground at kick-off time or 20 minutes later.
But will the images of the empty stands in Rugby Park that normally are jostling with Celtic fans at kick-off, will the imagery of that beamed all around the country, will the Celtic board take note of that, do you think?
Again, I don't think it's something, especially short term, that would bother them too much. They have their decision. They're stubborn about it. They feel they're doing what they're running the club the best way they feel is it should be done. And not turning up at games, I think only people that hurts is the players and the team and just getting behind them. That's one of, Celtic Rangers, the big travelling support is one of their, major strengths week in, week out. So it affects the players maybe more than it affects the boards. But I don't think guys in boardrooms really care about that. They care whether they're still getting money in. If you start voting with your money or you keep your money from boardrooms, then they sit up and start making decisions. But if it's just a bit of rancour, then Celtic and the fans have that historically at times anyway, sections of the fans anyway. I just don't think the board will, care too much. Dermot Desmond's sitting somewhere worrying that there's a few thousand seats empty at Rugby Park and he's suddenly going to, hold his hands up. That's not the sort of guy he is, and it's not, I understand Celtic fans want to do it and have their opinions heard, but I just don't think it's going to make any impact. And I'm not sure whether that says more about the boards than anything else, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Unbeaten Celtic against unbeaten Kilmarnock in the league on Sunday. Before we go, just a look at the Championship. It all kicks off tonight, Ryan, with Partick Thistle against Airdrie. That's one that you can see in the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30 tonight. The focus, though, will be tomorrow, the main focus, because it's Raith Rovers against St Johnstone, first against second in the table. Are we already viewing this as a promotion showdown? Despite the fact that we're only in mid-September, that this is actually the Championship game for the title.
Yeah, but I think it's good. I think we should build up these games. I think we should, talk about these games in these types of ways, because that's what attracts the fans. That's what attracts the media attention, social media attention. And I'm delighted from, being an ex-St Johnstone player that, they have started well this season. And, I feel like the fans are, that anyone's that I see on social media are excited that this season, I've said it before a little bit like Livingston, sometimes obviously getting relegated, if you can do the reset well and get the club then almost moving in another direction, it can give you a much better, a positive lift. I think if they had stayed up last year, things obviously maybe are not going well. The attendances wouldn't be as high as they are just now. So they've got a real strong belief that they can go and win this league. I think they've got the team that's good enough to do it. I don't think if they win tomorrow, that will be the league wrapped up and decided. But I do think again that those fans will feel if they can win tomorrow, then I think they're already believing that they can win the league. But I think if they win tomorrow, they'll definitely feel like they're red hot favourites to do it. On the other hand, if you look at Raith Rovers and since, if you put the sort of two seasons together, I think they've only lost a couple of games in almost 20, which is pretty impressive considering they're playing in the Championship and how difficult the Championship is. So, they'll be looking to put down a marker tomorrow. It is a difficult place to go. I know that ourselves, Livingston, last year struggled there, and they've got some really good players and a team that can hurt you. So, yeah, I think that's definitely sort of the game of the Championship and one that, again, once I'm celebrating at Pittodrie, running up the tunnel, will be a result that I'll be looking out for.
So you're looking for the Dundee result, you're looking for the Raith Rovers St Johnstone result.
I'll look at the Hearts result, see how they're getting on.
And all this after winning at Pittodrie.
Yeah, hopefully.
Ryan McGowan at yahoo.co.uk, any Dons fans out there, if you want to get in touch. No,
I'm just impressed that after the 90 minutes he's still insisting he's going to be running up that tunnel instead of just gently scrolling that.
That's true.
Ryan, can I just say, if your email address is ryanmcgowan at yahoo.co.uk, please change it now, because I've put that out. Listen, we're going to have to leave it there because the producer, as is his wont, is starting to scream naughty things in my ear to say wrap up, wrap up, wrap up. Moira Gordon, thank you very much indeed for joining. What result, by the way, will you be looking up for tomorrow at 5 to 5, given that you're not running up the tunnel at Pataudry?
Pataudry, surely.
All of them. As a journalist and professional, I will check out them all. But I will be at the Higgs, actually.
Moira Gordon, Ryan McGowan. Ryan, go well this weekend. And thank you very much indeed for joining us on what is another busy Scottish Football Daily podcast. They're all busy of a morning here at BBC Sounds, but also at your podcast provider. You know what to do. If you don't, well, just click on the notification link. It's as simple as that. Even I can do that. Or you can go to BBC Sounds. For now, though, enjoy our beautiful game. It all kicks off tonight, remember. A busy weekend on the BBC Scotland channel. Jonathan Sutherland and the sports scene team. 7:30 for Partick Thistle against Airdrie. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll speak again soon.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.